this morning.
Hello, this story is concerning wildlife. It's concerning a rhino.
A rhino? Blimey.
Right? Yeah, rhino.
Okay.
I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its two front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich. Don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because in the 70s I was in floods of tears. And as the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot a few years ago. Spurred? How do you get spurred by a rooster?
One here from Dan in Hampshire. Morning, Mike. Is an Aussie that has been dive-bombed by our version of the magpie, which is much bigger. Every springtime, the folk in this village need to use the old Aussie trick to stop being swooped. You have to wear an ice cream tub on your head with eyes drawn on the back so they think you're watching them. True story.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you, and as Kevin said, maybe with an alternative view, who knows. But I'm here with you until 1 o'clock in the morning nonetheless, and I'll be taking your calls. And look, we know now, don't we, the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, that this government needs to fill a black hole of £51 billion. That's £41 billion that she needs immediately, and about 10 billion in reserve, so that adds up to about 51 billion. She's been warned now that tax rises are going to be required. They're looking at a 5% tax rise across the board, and looking at things as well like capital gains, all sorts of taxes that they can do without trying to attack the working man or woman. We keep hearing about this wealth tax and being told it's a really bad idea. Kevin, as he left, said it's a very bad idea. The trickle-down economics does work. Look at America. Well, don't, if that is your argument. But it is a case of those with the most. They always say it, don't they? Should the broadest shoulders, etc., yada yada. Except that doesn't happen. We have, as of 2023, 171 billionaires in this country, each with an average of around £4 billion. And while we're here, people don't really understand how much bigger £1 billion is compared to £1 million. So just an observation. Oh gosh, I haven't got it in front of me now. If you were to save, here we go. If you would put aside £1 for every second, day and night, 24/7, 365 days a year, that equates to £86,400, right, per day. It would take 11 days to get to 1 million and 30 years to get to 1 billion. So that's the measure of difference between 1 billion and 1 million. So it would take 11 days to get to 1 million and 30 years to get to 1 billion. That's the difference. Another way of looking at it is if you earned £1,300 per day since the year 1 AD, that is every day through the Middle Ages, War of the Roses, Tudors, the Victorian era, 2 world wars, etc., you still would not have saved £1 billion. So when we're talking about a black hole of 51 billion, that's the sort of measure we're talking about. And we've got those billionaires and millionaires. But a wealth tax is really unpopular, the fear that people are going to leave. So at midnight, I want to ask you, if you had to fill £51 billion black hole in our economy, what would you do? What would you do? 77% apparently of the country agree with a wealth tax of some kind. With 1% holding 70% of the wealth of this country, it's not difficult to see why. 1% holding more than 70% of the wealth in this country. How would you do it? What cuts would you make? Who would you tax? Because if we can't find anybody else to tax, it's going to be you and me again. We're going to have to do it again, and the rich will just get richer. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. You can text as well. 87222. Put the word talk up front and it comes through to me here in the studio. To let you know who's coming up before then, it is Claire Muldoon on the papers. She'll be with us for the hour. Andrew Lound, our space expert, will also be here. And Anna Webb, our cat and dog behaviour expert and host of a Dog's Life podcast, will also be joining us. But first, as the Bank of England is expected to cut its interest rate tomorrow, a major economic think tank has warned that taxes will need to be raised in the autumn as part of substantial action to plug a £51 billion black hole. The National Institute of Economic and Social Research pointed out to weaker than expected recent economic activity, U-turns on welfare cuts and forecast beating borrowing, meaning the Chancellor is on track to miss at least one of her fiscal rules. A new wealth tax could be on the horizon, targeting the accumulated wealth, not just on income, working in the same way as the inheritance tax or capital gains tax. But historically, wealth taxes have always faced resistance, with big businesses also managing to find ways of not paying what they should in large tax bills. They negotiate with HMRC, which is something that you and I can't do. So what is the best way to fill this £51 billion black hole? And if we can't find the best way, then what is going to happen? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Vicky Price, a Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Hello there, Vicky. It's absolutely lovely to see you. How are you?
I'm very well. Good evening.
Good evening. That's interesting. I just had an exchange with my colleague there who just went, wealth taxes, no, can't, they'll all leave. We can't afford to lose any more of them. This is what we hear all the time. Why is a wealth tax a bad idea?
Well, it's interesting that it has been tried in a number of countries. Quite a lot of them were quite keen on this in the last few decades, and certainly we saw a lot of that in the last century, towards the end of it. But a number of them have then decided to abandon it, including places like France, simply because they weren't raising enough and they had caused a lot of disquiet. And indeed, people, just as you were suggesting, although you were questioning whether that was the case, did find all sorts of ways of avoiding paying it, or just left the country or moved their assets elsewhere. So that has been an issue all along. So whenever you look at wealth taxes and make a sort of back of the envelope assumption on how much you may be able to raise. So, for example, what is being discussed now is possibly a 2% wealth tax for anyone with assets of over 10 million in the UK. That could raise maybe 16 to 18 billion, perhaps up to 20. That, of course, assumes all sorts of things will remain constant, if you like, and they could easily not happen. And there would be an issue as to whether once you do it, even if it is, let's say, a one-off to ease some of the pressures that you are outlining in terms of the fiscal rules, whether then that will lead to such uncertainty that the UK will become the place one doesn't want to move to.
But it seems to me that we're held to ransom then by these rich people who are saying, right, you want me to pay 2% above 10 million on assets. Well, if you do that, I'm just going to find a way not to pay it, or I'm going to leave the country. It doesn't seem like they're in it for the right reasons. They're not considering that maybe because they have so much wealth, that would be the right thing to do, or is that just incredibly naive?
No, it's not at all naive, but of course there are quite a lot of rich people who are quite prepared to do so. So there is a whole group of patriotic billionaires or millionaires. Now, you did mention lots of billionaires here, but quite a lot of these people who signed up to this are actually also billionaires themselves, who say we're very happy to pay more. And the question is all the rest, because there are quite a lot of millionaires around, but there are also quite a lot of people who are pretty ordinary and yet somehow or other have managed to invest in things, accumulated some assets. Maybe they have more than one house, 2 or 3 of them, possibly for inheritance purposes, so they can leave it to the kids or whatever it is, or are having investment in companies that they have made in order to encourage growth and so on, which is actually quite positive. And if you try and value the shares, they may actually look like they are indeed at the range that you want to start taxing them additionally to whatever it is that they're taxed on at present. Because remember, there are taxes on capital gains which have been increased recently. So you are therefore touching quite a lot of people. Nevertheless, when the Institute of Fiscal Studies did their own estimates of what over 10 million would capture in terms of the numbers of people, it found that it is just 22,000 households as far as I recall. So it's not a huge number, but it is a considerable number. And the worry is that if that number is the one that is perhaps quite sort of flexible in terms of where it is, that in order to raise the amount that you want, you may need to put it further down, and then that starts capturing loads more people, and politically it becomes unsustainable.
But the wealth gap, Vicky, that we're seeing at the moment, when you're talking about the 1% holding 70% of the country's wealth, that isn't sustainable either. That is not, I don't see in any world where that is as an acceptable level of balance. I mean, I'm not even a lefty. I support capitalism. But just that disparity it's not sustainable. And you're seeing that in America as well. You're seeing that in a lot of countries.
Well, yes, in fact, I was just about to talk about America, and you're absolutely right. So if you look at the top billionaires, you find that they're mostly US and US-based, and there is one in the top 10 who is French. But otherwise, it's all Americans, and it is either because they've invested quite a bit, like, let's say, Elon Musk being one of them, Jeff Bezos and so on, or because they've inherited it somehow from their parents, and I think that's also an issue. How do you tax that inheritance? Or they have been involved in a family business and they've been able to expand that business properly by employing loads and loads of people, of course, in all those cases. So in some ways you want to have them. In other cases, though, when you look particularly at the way in which we've seen concentration of business, so a few very big businesses sort of dominating the multinational scene, then you do worry about whether we're doing the right thing in terms of taxation, particularly corporation tax. So we are now talking about wealth taxes, but in reality, if we were able to really put into practice what has been decided some time ago, but seems particularly from the US to have a lot of resistance, which is a minimum corporation tax that companies pay, which normally tend to move the profit somewhere else so they can pay less tax. But they pay profits in relation to the revenues they have in a particular country, and there's a minimum of that. If we were able to really put that into practice, then I think we will be raising an awful lot more money here in the UK and also the other countries that worry about equality.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing I wanted to come to. That is the whole argument about big corporations, and we know, like you say, they'll buy a cup lid in Ireland, and they'll say, look, that means that we're or somewhere where there's lower tax, and that means that we pay our tax there. Why are governments so scared to say to these companies, no, you're not doing that anymore, you will pay a sales tax in the UK, for example? That is, every cup of coffee you sell, it will be taxed, and it will be because you're selling it in the UK. Why are they nervous to do that?
Well, the sales tax does apply, so we have a VAT. So if anything is sold here, they do pay a tax. Now, of course, you're right in also touching on what happens more widely. So the online tax, so the sales tax, in other words, if you're bringing in something which you don't buy from a shop, but you're ordering on Amazon, say, or it comes in from abroad and you don't actually pay any tax at all on that, then that is something that can be looked at again and perhaps taxed properly. And there are, of course, suggestions for having that properly here in the UK. And of course, it happens in Europe as well. We do know that the US has not been very keen on this because, of course, the big IT companies are all American, mostly. Of course, they're Chinese as well, but the ones that we're worried about right now are the US ones that are selling all sorts of things, digitally, if you like, online in the UK, and those don't have a special tax, a sales tax of sorts that we have if you buy something from a shop, which is a VAT, a value-added tax. Then that is a real issue for the UK in terms of being able to raise revenue. So there are thoughts of how to do something there, but the real problem is that the US doesn't like it, has been putting a lot of pressure on all the other countries not to do this online sales tax, and that is what I think is stopping us from perhaps being a little bit more adventurous that way.
We also hear the argument, Vicky, that if we tax these companies or if we tax these individuals, that they employ people, and that that's very important, and we can't risk them, closing down their business. But just take any big company. I'm not going to name them in case it isn't true of them specifically, but you've got a big supermarket chain, for example, who've got shareholders, and they're only interested in profit. We know that. That's fine. That's capitalism. That's what happens. But they underpay their staff, and the taxpayer then has to bring that wage up to a livable wage with tax credits. This again is infuriating because the taxpayer is subsidising this huge supermarket chain so that it can give all its money to shareholders when it announces its £1 billion worth of profits. Again, how is that fair, and how is that allowed to happen?
What is happening, of course, is that the government is trying to push up minimum wage so that this doesn't happen to the extent that we've seen it happen until now. So if you pay them a more decent wage, then perhaps some of these things are not necessary. So if the national living wage goes up to a level which is considered to be acceptable in terms of providing somebody with the proper ability to survive and live reasonably well, then that makes life considerably easier from that point of view, because you no longer need necessarily all these extra credits that you could get with the tax. The taxpayers, basically.
But they have got away with it for a very long time,
yes,
and we have been subsidising the shareholders. I just don't understand how that was ever allowed.
But don't forget that we're also doing it with everything we pay for our water.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it carries across. So what we really needed is a bit of a tougher environment. The only problem is that if you start forcing firms to pay more, then they may simply close down or not employ people. But some balance.
But again, it's just this blackmail. You know, right? We can get away with whatever we want. Taxpayer will pick up the bill. That's not a problem. And if you tell us off for it, we're just going to leave. I mean, we can't win in that case.
But the only other way of doing it is by moving people, and certainly moving the sort of sectors in where we do a lot of investment into areas where there is high productivity and therefore pay is better as well. So that's the idea. It's something behind the industrial strategy that this government has put together, and we've seen it published just recently, which is all really focusing on areas where there is likely to be fast growth and also a lot of investment, innovation, and therefore pay will be considerably better because it requires higher skills. The only problem is, what do you do with all those low productivity jobs in retail, in hospitality, retail that you mentioned already, hospitality, for example, some of the creative sectors. So we've seen lots of conference venues closing down. They're not paying the people particularly much, but they can't afford to raise their prices either, and they have loads of taxes they have to pay, including what is going on right now with the increase in national insurance contributions, where the threshold's gone down as well, which means that quite a lot of those low-paid people we've just been talking about are going to be penalised further, because the cost of employing them, even though the cost is so low by comparison to what perhaps they should be paying,
What they should be paying, yeah.
is quite low, but the cost has increased hugely for the employer. And that's a real issue. So I'm not sure we got the balance right, is basically what I'm trying to say. But we've got to bear in mind, nevertheless, that people who are at the better end of, or the higher end of the income scale, and who have also all this wealth, I mean, the top 1% of income tax is, the top 1% of pay of wage earners, I want to call them that, because in many cases, of course, they have lots of income coming from shares and other ways, and from the savings and all sorts of other avenues which perhaps the normal individual household doesn't have. They pay 30% of all income tax. So if you look at the revenues for the government, 30% come from just that top 1%. So it is quite important to still keep them, because they are contributing very significantly to our revenues.
But there's the idea of trickle-down economics. Ronald Reagan believed in it, didn't he? Introducing that into America. It substantially has failed in America. You know, the whole idea that if the more rich people we've got, the more rich we will become, when it appears that they are just hoarding their wealth and increasing it step by step. Why is there still this idea that these rich people are going to generously pour this money towards the rest of us?
It's true that the US is one of the most unequal developed countries in the world. We are pretty unequal ourselves, but nothing by comparison. And we're pretty unequal by comparison to quite a lot of countries in Europe, but nothing like the US. And you do have a point that it hasn't spread across. But of course, what the wealthy people will tell you is we spend a lot on charity. We finance universities, we finance research.
But they get a tax break on that.
They do, of course.
It's not that. I don't think it's altruistic, is it? It's not being kind. It's like, well, we have to pay even less tax if we give money to a charity.
It's true. Well, there are a few who will tell you that they're actually doing it because they really believe in it. And
the tax break is just a lovely little extra.
It's an aside, yes. But no, you've got a point. But nevertheless, we have to be, relatively grateful, if you like, for the fact that some of that money is being spent in the right way. And yes, tax break or no tax break. But some of those sums are huge, and a lot of that is being spent in developing countries on fighting disease. So there are some good things coming out of it, but there is no doubt that what we've seen is this recently, particularly because of the IT revolution, AI and so on, we've seen a concentration of this wealth in a few firms and in a few individuals, which, is perhaps unhealthy. What had happened quite a few decades ago is when there was this concentration of all the wealth that came out of drilling the North Sea or drilling for oil all across the world. It was concentrated in just one firm. In the US in particular, it was split into 7. So there are loads and loads of suggestions now that we should look at some of those concentrations that are happening. So it was the 7 sisters at the time, as we called them. Now, of course, they're all getting back together again in a funny sort of way. So we're seeing their numbers reduce. And loads of discussions, for example, right now about BP and Shell sort of getting together. You've seen that with Exxon, you've seen that at times with Mobil and Chevron and all sorts of things like that. So there's quite a lot of discussions about getting closer together between them. But you could do something similar. I mean, it's sort of heresy to say that, but with some of those big IT firms and split them up and say you just become too big. And what is going on, of course, as we know, particularly in the EU, is they're looking at that monopoly power, which in many ways is increasing now with AI, and trying to see whether that is at all sustainable and whether there should be fines, whether indeed some bits should be broken up and others should have more of a stake in what happens in bits of that IT sector. So there is a lot of discussion about that, and you're right to focus on corporations, because that's really where a lot of it lies, and it is corporations which are pretty monopolistic, which also allow the people who work in them to become very rich.
Yeah, indeed. I would. Well, I mean, look, I wish I was one of them, Vicky, but sadly...
Don't we all?
Yeah, sadly I'm not. It's wonderful to talk to you. Thank you. It's really good to see you. Vicky Price, Chief Economic Advisor, Centre for Economics and Business Research. Just a quick break. Back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. Coming up at midnight, I want to talk to you about this £51 billion black hole that we suddenly have in our finances in this country. And Rachel Reeves is now being warned that she will have to increase tax across the board in order to fill it. There's 41 billion that she needs for promises that have been made and 10 billion as a sort of slush fund, if you like. So I'm asking you how you would fill it. I mean, it's really interesting. I love Vicky Price because she's just so calm and just so factual. And from, you know, what she's saying is, you know, corporations need to pay more. The wealth tax may not work because people will leave and they'll take their money with them, although she did agree that the trickle-down economic theory in America that was started by Reagan has absolutely and abjectly failed and is failing here. As you were saying, with the, you know, yes, but the rich give money to charity and the rich support businesses. They do it because they get a tax break for it as well, if they invest, if they do those sorts of things. So, make no mistake that I very few, I think, are truly altruistic in that sense, and they give to charities like, you know, the Royal Ballet. You know, I don't know how many times you go to the Royal Ballet in a year, but I'm fairly certain I don't go very often. It's just interesting to me that there's this form of almost blackmail, threatening to throw their teddies out of the pram if they're asked to pay an extra 2% on extraordinary wealth. I'm not talking about people with just, you know, a couple of million even. I'm not even talking about people who earn 10 million. Fine, have your 10 million, pay your tax, as long as you're paying it, that's fine. But make sure you pay it, because whatever happens, if you're in this country, you are using the facilities, even if you've got private healthcare. A lot of those doctors were trained by the taxpayer. A lot of those consultants that you use in the private sector cost us £300,000 each to get them trained. You know, you owe. It's as simple as that. Why are you going around trying to find ways not to pay when you have such extraordinary wealth? And of course, they can jump through loopholes and, you know, play games with their money. Like I say, donate stuff to charity because they get a tax break on that. And then you've got these big corporations like this supermarket that I was talking, supermarket chain, which underpays its staff so that the government, well, sorry, not the government doesn't have any money. The taxpayer has to top up their wages in the form of tax credits so that the big supermarket chains or the big banks or whoever it is can give the money that we give away to their shareholders and their big fat, you know, CEOs on several millions of pounds in just salary, let alone bonuses and all sorts of extras that they get every year. So there is a real imbalance, and it isn't sustainable. It isn't sustainable when you look at America as well. The disparity between the rich and the poor is so vast now. And actually, this is always, and I'm not recommending it, but it's always a precursor. In history, if you look back in history, every single time there has been a massive disparity between the rich and the poor, it has led to revolution. Because the poor can't take it anymore. And make no mistake, if the rich don't pay a little bit extra, then we will have to pay, in balance against what we're earning, a heck of a lot more. They're talking about a 5% increase. So that's 5p on every single pound in order to fill this black hole. Because it's got to be filled. So how would you fill it? You know, is it unreasonable of me to go, do you know what? We keep hearing those with the broadest shoulders, but what they do then is the governments then attack people who are earning over 70 grand a year. I'm sorry, that's not a broad shoulder. 171 billionaires in this country, those are broad shoulders, right? They're not somebody on 70 or even 100 or even 150,000 or even 200,000. That's what this government will go after. They'll go, yeah, you're the rich one. They're not the rich ones. They're richer than me and they're richer than you, but they're not the rich ones. So, is it unreasonable? Is it tree-huggy and left-wing to suggest that these extraordinarily wealthy people pay a little tiny bit more so that we, as the poorer people, don't have to pay, a lot more? I don't think that's particularly radical. Is it? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and coming up we have Andy Lound, who's going to be here, our favourite spaceman, and then Claire Muldoon will be going through Thursday's newspapers, so that's something to look forward to at the top of the hour. But right now, Anna Webb joins us now, our cat and dog behaviour expert and host of A Dog's Life, a podcast, because you all know that I'm animal mad. Hello there, good to see you.
Hi Petrie, thanks for having me on.
So it is International Cat Day on Friday. I didn't know there was such a thing.
It really is.
And there are approximately 12.5 million pet cats. That's 29% of all UK households.
Yeah, that is about right. And actually, London is the cat capital of the UK, with 1.4 million cats living in the capital compared to 1.1 preschoolers.
Wow, so you've got more cats than preschoolers.
We really do, yes.
With cats, a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people are now talking about cats being kept indoors in cities because of bird life and because of people hate them in their gardens, etc. You know, they haven't got a really good reputation amongst those who don't like them.
Well, you know, they are 10,000 years less domesticated than dogs. So, and I think that's what gives them their je ne sais quoi. You know, I know you, Petrie, you have a cat called Edith. I've got a cat called Baggy, who I was hoping would make an appearance, but he's just gone a bit, he's just got AWOL down the hall at the moment. He may make, you know, an exciting leap onto the desk in a minute. So I do hope he does.
Yeah.
Yes, I know they do. They can kill birds, but there are lots of things you can do to prevent cats from, you know, stalking your little robins in your garden. Obviously, if you fulfill their prey drive, because they are obligate carnivores. They've got 4 retractable claws. They've got little mouths that are like miniature saber-toothed tiger's teeth, and they're designed for eating mice, killing rats, and of course, without them in the past, we probably all would have died of bubonic plague a long time ago.
Yeah, that is very true. Yes, I've got Edith, Miss Edith, Evil Edith, who does not like women. Apart from Gabriella, the producer, she likes her, but she does not like women. She is very much my son's cat. She doesn't particularly like me at all. What do you do about that? Or is that just character?
But I think it is down to character, and maybe that's not true. I mean, maybe she's, you know, hiding her real, true love for you.
She's hiding it really well.
In her own way. I think, you know, there's a lot. See, cats are less bribable than dogs, I think. So you can train cats and you can modify their behaviour, but it all has to be done a lot more in a way on their terms than on a dog's terms, because, you know, treats don't really cut the mustard with cats, whereas with dogs, normally, you know, a piece of cheese, you can work an arrangement pretty quickly with a piece of cheese with a dog. So with cats, I think it's more about fun and about tapping into their natural instincts, like I mentioned earlier, but also, you know, playing them at their own game a little bit and giving them the cold shoulder, so that you're not too keen with them, being a little bit aloof, and then that way it's a bit like a hide and seeky game with a cat, but of course every cat's a total individual, just like every dog is a total individual, Petrie.
Yeah, I mean, she adores my son. I mean, absolutely, she is ridiculous with him. I mean, all over, it's pathetic. And also any man that comes into the house, she's just obsessed, absolutely obsessed. But I tell you what, I did want to ask you, and that is that my puppy Humphrey and my older dog Bailey. Now, when Edith was introduced, she was rescue. When she was introduced to the house, she was a kitten. And so she and the older dog, Bailey, get on quite well, or they used to get on quite well. They would tolerate each other, a bit of a fight now and then, but curl up in the same bed. Now that Humphrey has arrived, Humphrey was, the first time he met Edith, he was slapped really hard around the face. And since then, Bailey has started to scare Edith out of the house. He doesn't want her in the house. And Humphrey won't stop barking at her. So what do I do?
Well, they do say two's company and three's a crowd. So I think, the thing to do is to try and create boundaries when they're all together in the same room. So with Humphrey, perhaps to get him to go and sit on a bed, ask Edith maybe to go and sit on the arm of the sofa, and Bailey could be in another armchair, so that they don't really get the opportunity to gang up on one another.
But Bailey won't let, because it's literally since she smacked Humphrey, Bailey won't let her even in the house. He chases her out, and he never did that before. He doesn't bark at her, but he chases her out.
But I think that's where you put a boundary in with Bailey. It might mean having him on a soft collar and lead, for a little bit, so you can guide him gently away from Edith, because you don't want to alienate Edith or make her not want to come indoors at all, in the long term. I mean, this has to be sorted out, I would have thought. You know what I mean? Otherwise, she may decide to go and, move into next door. And that you wouldn't want that either, because cats, that's the thing. They have the freedom, to move out. If they're suddenly feeling overstressed in a home, they'll think, right, well, I might move 2 doors down. It's a lot calmer. There's no dogs there, for example. So I think for your own affection and your son's affection to Edith, it's important now to manage Bailey a little bit. But also Bailey's perhaps got a little big for his boots. He's, kind of being protective allegedly over Humphrey. He could be showing off a little bit. I think it's important always to have boundaries so that you manage the pet household in a way that you want it to be, rather than, the other way around. You're not wagging the tail, Petrie, or maybe actually Bailey's wagging the tail.
Yeah, I mean,
but you should be wagging the tail.
Yeah, I mean, I've been keen to let him be alpha with Humphrey because, that, I think that's important. But Humphrey won't stop barking at her. What do you do about a dog that just... Because Bailey's never really bothered about cats. We had another rescue cat before we had Edith, who sadly died. And he was fine with her as well, even as a puppy. But Humphrey just barks at her.
Well, then again, it's to, put Humphrey into a bed, occupy him with an interactive toy or a chew, so you're distracting him from, barking at Edith, so that you're turning the situation to be on your terms rather than on Humphrey's terms or on Bailey's terms. So, basically you're raising your status, Petrie, as being the main matriarch in the home rather than the other way round.
Yeah, that puppy and that dog, they rule my life. They really do. The cat nutrition for cats. How often should they eat? Because Edith thinks I worm her every month, but she seems to eat quite a lot and doesn't get fat.
Well, that's it. Cats, like dogs, they've all got different metabolisms.
Yeah.
Cats do like to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that to emulate, their natural instincts to go and have a mouse for lunch and then maybe have a little bit of something else in the afternoon and maybe a big rat for their supper, and being, in the wild, not, at home. So, I like to, with my own cats over the years, I like to kind of give them their meals because I like to give them fresh food rather than, dry biscuits that perhaps can stay out all day. So I like to make a meal out of meal times, so the cats will kind of always eat when the dogs eat, with fresh food that I put up into onto their feeding station, which is always up high, so A, the dogs can't get it, but B, also cats like to be a bit up high so they feel safe.
I do the same. Yeah,
that's it. So, and then they get into a mealtime routine really, and you can call them in with a cue to, I always say it's on the table, and that's the cue for them to come in and have their dinner. So it will vary from cat to cat.
And just finally, you're at the London Pet Show live.
Yes, in fact, I'm doing quite a few 2 talks on cats, Petrie. I know all my dog fans will be thinking, Anna, you've switched to the dark side, but I haven't really, because I do believe cats do bring us so much joy, Petrie, and their joy is being completely different from a dog. So yes, I'm doing a couple of nutrition talks at what is the first big Pet Kingdom show to hit London for over 15 years, Petrie.
Wow. Well, good luck with that. I hope lots of people turn up to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Anna Webb there, cat and dog behaviour expert and host of A Dog's Life podcast. Quick break, but Andy Lound will be with us next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, a good evening to you. It is Petrie, and like I said, coming up at midnight, we're going to be talking about how you would fill the £51 billion black hole, because Rachel Reeves is got her back of an envelope at the moment trying to decide what she's going to do. And there's a lot of people that are messaging, saying, oh, you're a lefty, you're a commie. Why are you so against rich? I'm talking about rich. I'm talking about billionaire level. There are 3 million millionaires in this country. 3 million millionaires. And so that's a lot of people who already probably, a lot of that money, they'll be paid a wage and they'll be taxed on that wage, but then the rest of the money they're making in other ways and other means. So is it so radical, really, to ask them to pay a little bit more rather than us as a percentage of what we earn have to pay a lot more? One way or the other, the black hole has got to be filled. So it's us or them, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Now, though, it is time to head to space. And Andy Lound joins me now, our space expert. Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. If you don't mind me saying, I'd like to condolences for James Well and everybody at Talk, who is a brilliant man, James. We all remember him.
Yeah, thank you. They definitely broke the mould, didn't they, with James Well. It's still really difficult to believe, because he's been poorly for quite a long time. So I just kind of thought he'd go on forever, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Andy. Let's talk about NASA. Are you on the moon at the moment?
Yes, this is the nuclear power station behind me.
You're on the moon without a spacesuit, which is pretty radical.
Well, I've got a force field thing behind me. It's
okay.
All very sci-fi tech.
All right. So
if in doubt, write a story.
NASA is planning to build a nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030. They do realise how close that is, don't they?
They do, especially with the nuclear industry. There was always a plan for a 40 kilowatt nuclear fission reactor on the moon because the space station, which they have there, solar panels aren't really going to work very well because, you have quite half the time of the, 14 days in darkness isn't going to really recharge very much. So you really need to have a constant power supply. Hydrogen fuel cells will work to a certain degree, but really a nuclear fission reactor is the way to go. And they were thinking of a 40 kilowatt reactor. However, things have changed, and things have changed because China, working with Russia and their partners who are going to build a moon base as well, have already upped the ante and pointing out about their nuclear power systems that they're going to put onto the moon. So America have brought forward it. There's expected to be an announcement shortly where they're going to look at putting a 100 kilowatt fission reactor on the moon by 2030 to support the lunar activities. This is quite interesting because if you've got a nuclear reactor on the moon, there'll have to be a safe zone around it for obvious reasons, which means for the very first time, the nation that lands on the moon and starts setting up facilities will be starting to draw up those borders. And anyone who's watched For All Mankind, the rather remarkable What If TV series, I think it's on Apple or something, is quite incredible because it's getting very close to the truth there. It's interesting, these small modular reactors, it'll be out to tender for people. It's interesting that Rolls-Royce had already thrown their hat in the ring a couple of years ago, pointing out, because they're looking at putting these modular reactors in different cities around Britain, including Birmingham and Dudley, and they're going to put them there. But it also would be the ideal kind of thing to put onto the moon as well, because they're safer on the moon than they would be in a major city. So it'll be interesting to see how far these get. But if they're going to put it on by 2030,
they're going to get a move on.
They're going to get the move on, because as we all know with the nuclear industry, when they say 10 years, they really mean 25 years.
Yeah, exactly that. What are they going to do with the nuclear power?
Yes, they're going to do it to power the space station, all the operational facilities. They'll need to generate electricity to power all the systems they want. Solar panels, as I said, are okay for 14 days of a lunar day, but 14 Earth days of a lunar day. But then the lunar night is another 14 days, so you can't charge the batteries up properly with solar panels. So solar power is really out of the question for long duration use. So you really need to have a regular supply, and that really, to be honest, is only pointing towards nuclear power.
And like you said, Andy, we've talked about this a lot. It is then people start dividing up the moon, and who decides that? I mean, how is that decided? First come wins the moon?
It's going to be frontier land, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
We're going to go to frontier land now. The people like me with a romanticised idea of going into space for all mankind, let's get to reality here now. It's going to be about big business, it's going to be about resources, and it's going to be about territory. And therefore, we're going to start seeing those boundaries, I think, going up as soon as the first bases start to be set up. You'll see the boundary lines being drawn.
And we've done such a great job of that on Earth, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. Does it work?
We all live peacefully with our boundaries on Earth, don't we? So let's just replicate that disaster on the moon.
That's what humans are like, unfortunately.
We're like vermin. How disgusting.
Yeah, I thought the film Matrix was very good when it said when the computers were trying to categorize the humans, the closest thing could be was a virus.
Yeah.
Because we consume everything and then move on and consume something else. I thought that was actually a very good comment.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be wars fought over blooming moon space.
There will. You can almost end the resources depending whether they find the water, whether they find helium-3, magnesium, lithium. You can see them fighting over it. Yes, you really can.
I'm glad I'm old.
Oh, you're not old.
I'm old enough. I just get me off this planet, not onto the moon. I don't want to go there either.
Oh, yeah.
But I certainly don't want to be on this one at the moment. Scotland has got a new licence to launch. Is that right?
Yes, the first British company has been licensed to launch rockets vertically into the air, Skyrora, which will be launching from Saxford, which is the old RAF radar station, which is being Britain's mainland rocket launching facility. I always thought Dr. Quatermass would be out there, but apparently he isn't. Instead, we have, I've got to get the name right here, Vladimir Levikin, who's Ukrainian-born tech millionaire, an expert on things, very brilliant engineer actually. He's done some very interesting work, and he wants to launch rockets built in Britain, launched in Scotland, and using what's called the Skylark L. Skylark is a famous name for a sounding rocket which Britain launched for many years. Sadly enough, we couldn't launch them from Britain. We had to take them to France and Australia because we weren't allowed to launch them at the time. Go figure that one. And he's eventually going to have vehicles that can be launched into orbit, where we could do polar launches. So you could actually get the spacecraft to fly pole to pole in orbit, so the Earth passes underneath it, so you could photograph every piece of the planet while it's in its orbit. It's a very brilliant idea.
And I was watching something earlier on this week, maybe it was even yesterday, and they were talking about how Scotland is really well placed because it's up north, if you like, so it's closer to the polar north.
It's perfect for polar launches. It'll be cheaper to launch the polar launches. Many companies prefer polar launches because they can observe the Earth. As I said, as the Earth rotates underneath the satellite, it actually can photograph every square meter of the planet, and therefore it's actually a better way to do it. And because you're high up in the north, you've got a perfect way to do it. The alternative is to go further down south, of course, to actually do it the other way, but there isn't really anywhere to do that.
No, we don't go far enough south, do we?
No, so we've got a perfect place to do it up there in Scotland. And Scotland's always had a very good space industry anyway, with the universities building small CubeSats, satellites about the size of a loaf of bread, which can be actually launched as well. So it's actually in a perfect position. It's going to be a big boom for the Scottish economy, of course, which can do these kind of things. A German company has already been given a license by Britain to launch vertically from Saxafjord, but Skyrora is the first British company to do it. It's interesting, some of the rocket parts are actually going to be 3D printed as well, which is quite a unique thing. And a very eco-friendly fuel system is what he's keen on developing as well, which again makes it quite an interesting one.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Also exciting is we've got our meteor shower that you wanted to remind us about.
Yes, 12th to 13th of August, going after 11 o'clock, the Perseids meteor shower, the best meteor shower of the year, part of an old comet called Swift Tuttle, and that's brilliant to watch that. So you can go out, watch up to 100, maybe, depends where you are, 200 meteors an hour. You will see the shooting stars going across the sky. Called Perseids because if you trace back the tails to the radiant, that is in the constellation Perseus. They're not actually associated with Perseus, purely a line of sight effect, but you can look anywhere across the sky, look at the darkest part of the sky, go out there, wrap up warm, it might be quite nice actually next week, and enjoy them, and set your cameras to B setting, as we used to call it, for long duration shots, and you never know, you might get some photographs of them as well.
And what are they? Just the rocks?
Pieces of dust, pieces of icy dust, which have come off the comet. Comet's made out of mainly of ice, but there is dust something on them. And when they fly close to the sun, they heat up. The ice sublimates. That means it turns straight from a solid to a gas without going through a liquid phase. And these tiny particles then are blown by the solar wind, and as the Earth passes through the tail of the comet, or the debris, because that debris remains as a torus around the sun, and as we pass through it, the particles enter the Earth's atmosphere at about 50,000 miles per hour, and they burn up, and you see the beautiful streak of them burning up in the
That is
atmosphere.
the best description I've ever heard. Thank you, Andy Lound.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is great to have your company, and with me is the fabulous broadcaster Claire Muldoon.
Hello there, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm very well. Just hearing all about the Scottish space mission.
Yeah, how exciting is that? It really is. It's going to be amazing. I love all that space stuff.
I think they should put us in a capsule, actually, don't you?
I think the world would love to do that with us.
It'd be better. It'd be better than the Bezos one, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, we would be
the
funnier.
Bezos hen do with all those women.
Yeah, us two and a bottle or two of Malbec. That'll keep the world entertained.
That'd be great. We'd introduce that to space. Never know who we might meet up there.
Yeah, well, it's got to be better odds than down here, love. I tell you that for nothing. Before we get to the papers, the £51 billion black hole that there is in our economy, and Rachel Reeves is now being told by a very substantial think tank that she's going to have to increase tax. That's it, on us. But we keep hearing about this threat of a wealth tax, and then it is immediately shut down. People say, no, we can't tax the wealthy. There are 3 million millionaires in this country and 171 billionaires in this country. 1% of the wealth in this country
is attributed to that demographic.
They hold more than 70. The rest of the country, 70% to their. Well, they have more wealth than the 70% of the country. Why is a small wealth tax? I'm not sure I believe in it on individuals, but I do believe in it on corporations, 100%, that they should be taxed more, or at least they should be made to pay the tax that they actually owe. Where do you stand on that? How would you fill the black hole?
Right, well, I don't know. I'm not an economist. I mean, I didn't study economics at university or anything, and I don't think Rachel Reeves did either. But this black hole, Petrie, is all Labour's own doing. She can't blame the Conservative 14-year rule.
No, because there was only 20 billion when they got in.
And let's not be flippant about it. It's still a huge amount of money. But with the problem with the 300 million millionaires, that a lot of that will be in equity in premier and private homes, their first homes. A lot of it will be in paper. And unfortunately, it'll be that demographic that will be targeted from a wealth tax, let alone the 71, how many it was, billionaires in the country. But also, we need to realise that a lot of people will be treated as non-doms with that amount of wealth in this country. And I completely and utterly agree with you where you said that it should be the companies that are taxed, not necessarily individuals. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that a lot of companies are either issuing their shares based in the US, where they were up in arms about the tariffs that Trump was imposing, and they had to go and lobby the White House, a lot of these big companies, and say, look, please, would you just take care of us, because our shareholders are based here, but we pay dividends in the UK, and, we need, so there's a very, very, very fine line between industry and profit, and where the profit is lodged and recorded. And that is the issue I think they have with all the major, like I'm going to use for an example, Amazon and Starbucks. They're not registered here for tax. They're not registered in the US for tax.
But that's a loophole, right? Those are loopholes that we've got. We have got one of the most complicated tax structures in the world. 30 years ago, to read up on the tax rules, it was that big. Now, it's 1,000, pages. It's so complicated, and the complication creates loopholes that very clever, very rich people can pay very clever, rich people to get them out of paying tax. So it's not that they shouldn't be paying tax here to the levels that they should be paying. It's just that they find very clever ways of getting out of it. So surely what we do is close those loopholes, because if they say, well, we'll just take our companies elsewhere, there's equally big taxes in America. There's big taxes, you know. Where are they going to go?
Well, that is the problem with relying on stocks and shares and goods and services instead of a manufacturing, industrial, you know, industry. You know, there's nothing tangible. And I think it's actually foolhardy, and I think it's a bit immoral, actually, to base people's pensions, to base people's livelihoods, to base our tax income on things that aren't tangible. You know, it's shifting sands, and it always will be.
It's gambling as well, isn't it?
When you go on, legalise gambling, tax avoidance is fair, tax evasion isn't. And when you go onto your front papers today, you'll find in the FT, and indeed the Mail were leading, I think, with a story of HMRC giving classes on British white guilt or something like that. And I'm not talking about gilts as in gilts and shares. I'm talking about actually guilt. I mean, when we stop all that nonsense, right? And there was another report today in one of the papers that said that the money raised by the VAT on schools, right, which a lot of money will be raised by this new government, and which we were promised would go into the state system. That isn't happening, actually.
Of course not.
But what a lot of parents have actually done was actually paid the fees in advance. So now someone's raised, oh, you can't actually do that because the new tax system of the VAT on the fees should be raised at the time the invoice was given. So are HMRC going to spend time and money going after the families that have done their best to try and send it through their own personal choice to send their child to a private school and to mitigate some? I mean, things are bad out there, Petrie.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, what was the other report? 2/3 of renters today will never be able to afford to buy their own home because of the cost of rent. They can't actually afford to save on the back of that.
No, with my son and his girlfriend, that half of each of their salaries goes on the rent for a one-bedroom flat in you know, Harlesden.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know.
I mean, there's no way they can save.
No. There's a lot of people, not just the young people.
It's not that they're having, you know, flash coffees.
Deliveroos every day, you know, they're not driving flash cars.
Yeah. No, they don't drive, they use bikes.
They don't have anything on HP.
No.
You know, they've got their furniture from friends, etc., etc. I know this.
It is absolutely shocking. But this wealth disparity, though, Claire,
it always has been there,
but it is getting wider. It is getting worse. It is getting wider. You know, the rich are getting richer. And the middle and poor are getting poorer because we're easier to tax. We're easier to tax.
You're easier to get.
We are easier to get. Exactly, because you pay PAYE, your
self-assessment,
everything, all of those things. So, and we can't quite afford that, you know, fourth home in you know, in Italy.
Saint-Tropez or Cap Ferrat.
Yeah. So we're not going anywhere. But that's that doesn't seem fair. And I was saying earlier on, if you look back in history, every single revolution has happened when there is a wealth disparity that is so wide that the poor and middle can't live properly, and all of the money is concentrated on the rich. And you see that in America.
Games all over.
Yeah, you see that in America. It is the wealth disparity there is breathtaking, and it is shocking that they've got the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor in that country. We know that they're medically poor. We know they're educationally poor. You know, all of these things. Earlier on today, I was watching something on either Sky or one of the other channels, talking about, you know, what we need to do is stop educating to degree level American people so that they take manufacturing jobs. It's a race to the bottom.
Well, that's the thing, and I've always said to you, and you know this, that the only way out of poverty is education.
Yeah.
But Blair took it too far in, making the polys and the colleges into universities, because now you don't have trained individuals that that can do the jobs that we always need, that robots can't do: plumbing, electricity, chippies,
all the trades.
All the trades.
Yeah,
we need them.
Well, and they've been lowered to a status of ooh. You know what I mean? Oh, you didn't go to university. No, but I'm earning...
But that's because a lot of cheap influx of cheap labour has come in as well.
Yeah.
Cheap, skilled, to a certain extent, labour that this country have pushed and punitively paid pittance, often in cash, because they want the best price that they can for their jobs.
But what do we do? I mean, we know that during COVID, for example, that there were so many millionaires created, right? During one of the worst times in our history. The rich got substantially richer. I mean, like breathtaking. It sped up that trajectory of rich people getting richer, and companies going out of business, and then other companies swooping in and buying them for pennies on the pound. All of those things that were going on. How is it possible ever to balance that? Or do we just have to wait for this cycle of capitalism to collapse? All cycles of capitalism do collapse.
I really, really do. And it's this, I mean, how could you say that this Labour government was at all capitalist when it's tried to screw every single part of economic growth out of this country? I think I was talking to someone the other day, it might have been one of my kids, and I said that we're teetering on the precipice now of something. It's like almost bankruptcy, right, of the country, because she's Rachel Reeves is borrowing far too much at really, really rubbish rates.
Oh, it's awful.
It's as if what's the debt agency called? Is it Goodies or something like that? It's as if they've given us a 1-star review and the computer kept saying no. And every time she's gone back for more money, it's charged us even more. Well, that's a wee poem there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, I think we need a complete crash. I mean, the real estate in this country mirrors, often it takes about 10 years to catch up with what's happened in the States. And a lot of people will be feeling the pinch. And it's nothing to do with interest rates. It's because everything has been taken away. PAYE has been gambled away by Class 2 national insurance of the employers' contributions. Now there's going to be no way, and that think tank that you mentioned at the top of your show there, top of this hour, is actually a left-leaning think tank. And for them to come out and say...
Absolutely. Against a Labour government.
Against a Labour government.
And it is fascinating to watch what is happening in America, particularly with the house prices, as you were saying, because they are collapsing. They are absolutely collapsing. There are whole districts, whole streets that are people can't even sell. They're trying desperately to sell. Yeah. And you've got these huge companies, again, cashing in on that, going and swooping in, buying entire streets of homes, and then renting them at inflated rents, or trying to rent them at inflated rents to people who need somewhere to live. And that again it's not sustainable. So again, you've got the rich getting richer. I mean, it is brewing for revolution.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's what happens every time with capitalism. And I think capitalism is the only workable system, by the way. I genuinely do. But it collapses in on itself, because as the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, the poor can't keep the rich rich. And they need us more than we need them.
Well, of course. And it's the same with people who put the food on the shelves. And I'm using London here as an example. We're told that you can commute. I think job centres say to people who need to, are signing on, okay, you can commute. You can use public transport for an hour at least to commute to your job. Well, I'm sorry, but the rents in London are pushing so many people out that the people in London won't have the people to clean their homes. They won't have food on the shelves.
We won't have firefighters. We won't have nurses.
Anything, because people cannot afford to live in the city. And that's why Peabody Trust, the Roundtree Foundation, the Guinness Trust have got prime properties all over London, and that's why they will not be sold. And you and I had this conversation last month about should one of these, how many, I think it was 30% of people living in some form of social housing actually are on £100,000 or something like that. And I said to you at the time, we cannot displace these people. It's lifetime tenancies they've got, and that can be removed through ill health, through an accident, through something. We need to keep protecting people. We can't, as a society, I mean, we can't just move people out. We can't have this social cleansing all the time, because all that does is make for the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, and also blights off in the middle of these cities and residential homes, because no one can live there, Petrie.
No one can afford it.
That's such a dying shame. Or people are using them for tax breaks.
Yeah,
a
they
lot of it are into international investors.
Richer getting richer again at the cost of the local community, because the shops aren't being worked up. The pubs are closing because nobody lives in these blocks of flats anymore. The shops are closing because nobody shops there, because nobody lives in these blocks of flats anymore.
We need to make it vibrant again. We need to make it vibrant again. We need to put money in people's pockets, let them spend. I mean, it's a psychological effect as well. If you've got money in your pockets, if you work hard for it, you feel pride, you feel proud. And as a nation, we just don't have any pride. And Angela Rayner even said that weeks ago as well. She said there is no pride in this. There's no cohesion in this country either. I mean, why would there be, when we've got illegal immigrants coming on over the time, seeking asylum, being put up in hotels, and the dog whistling that's going on against that is vindictive, horrible, and everything else. It's the narrative of, oh, we're not safe.
Yeah.
Well, we just have to look at the statistics. This is the anniversary of the bomb dropping in Hiroshima. Has humanity not moved on at all?
We haven't learnt a thing.
Not a thing.
Not a thing. And Andy Land and I were just talking about the moon, and they're going to start dividing that up and fighting over that now. You know, I mean, we've learnt nothing. We've learnt nothing. We are, as a species, I mean, just
morally bankrupt.
Morally bankrupt. Absolutely, I could not agree with you more.
We really are.
We really are. It's so.
Well, let's get on that pod and let's get up. We'll go up to Scotland. You can drive us up to Scotland.
I'll drive us up to. That'd be fun.
We'll take Bailey with us, right? We'll take a case of Malbec.
Yeah.
And we'll get launched.
Let's go.
That's not a euphemism, by the way.
I'm going to take a quick break while we analyse that. I'll be back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good to have your company. With me is Claire Muldoon, and we're starting to look at the papers now. The Washington Post, this Epstein stuff won't go away, will it?
Of course it won't. Of course it won't. What's happening now? Tell me.
The stakes rise as Epstein subpoena hits the Department of Justice. So move required by July, a vote puts the House GOP on a path to clash with Trump. So the Republicans are going to clash with Trump. Republican-led House subpoenaed the Justice Department on Tuesday for its files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That's really interesting, isn't it? That it is the Republicans subpoenaing for this. But I suppose, you know, child abuse, child sexual abuse is universally loathed, one would hope.
Well, of course it is. It has to be. But, you know, is his name on that list? I don't know. Do we know that? I mean, what is... I think they have to be released, but we said as
he
well...
was told that his name is on the list. Well, we don't know. It is in the files.
That's the thing.
Is in
Pam
the files.
Bondi, wasn't it?
He was told, that he is in the files, and the FBI had to go through tens of thousands, hundreds bits of paper to highlight where his name was and redact it.
Yeah, but what about Ghislaine? She's the key.
Well, it seems that she's been moved to a soft touch prison.
Hasn't she? Yeah, funny that. I wonder what she's told them.
I cannot imagine.
I just think this goes beyond the depths of reality, really. I think it goes beyond anything that we as minions can actually comprehend on a human level. I think it's just so big.
I agree with you. I think this is a massive, massive scandal. And my fear is that nobody will ever pay for what happened to those girls.
They won't. And it's the victims again. Again. It's women, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and they will never get justice because they're all covering each other's backs. They're all protecting each other, and it's pathetic. And what's even worse is they won't spend any present time, but they're probably still doing it. So, you know, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
It's the enablers. I just wish people would come out and, I mean,
I agree.
Like Strictly Come Dancing, for instance, right? Apparently there's a couple of participants, employees, call them what you want, who were done for drug issues, right? And you think after everything the BBC has gone through, is still going through, you think why are people enabling this behaviour? Right? Why is it then coming up? But one of the funny things that I said over lunch at the weekend was, oh, did you know that they're going to introduce some line dancing now to Strictly?
I'd love that.
Well, it's a euphemism for something else.
You're a very naughty girl. We've got a text, Claire, that says, you and Muldoon coordinated well tonight.
Yeah, the spotty Muldoon I've done tonight.
Yeah, but mine are bigger, she says. Alison, she said yours are bigger.
Good evening, Alison. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We do look
great to have your company, Alison. You can come in the pod in space as well.
Yes, you can. We'll take
beware. Petrie and I do like the odd glass of Malbec, bottle of Malbec, and you know she says she can drive, but hey ho.
Hey ho. Not after. Never after a drink, obviously. Let's turn our attention to the Times.
Right.
Trump is seeking a three-way. But a three-way peace talk with Putin and Zelensky. So he wants him, Poots, Ruti Tutti Putti, and Zelensky to sit down and have a peace talk. Peace talks haven't really gone that well.
Well, apparently, Witkoff arrived in Moscow this morning, and it was reported that Trump had a call with Zelensky, which went very well, apparently very well. He didn't say very nice man, very good man. He just said the call
he's not
went
Hannibal
well.
Lecter. I mean, he loves Hannibal Lecter.
And Putin, apparently his aides have said he's not wanting to discuss things with the US. But of course, it's Witkoff that's gone, not Trump. But they need to have, like you said, a three-way call between Zelensky, Putin and Trump. There is only going to be one way, I think. Putin now is going to give up or help, or he's not going to give up, but stop the war. It wasn't as easy as I think we all thought it was, or at least I thought it was when Trump came in and he could just tell Zelensky, look, this is the lay of the land, literally. Don't do what you're doing, just stop and let us, negotiate with Putin. But Putin said, well, there's not going to, I want those three landmarks in the Ukraine, and I want them, and I'm going to get them, and I'm not going to rest until I get them.
Absolutely.
So it is repeating what happened a la Crimea. It's a complete land grab, and what a waste of money this proxy war has been, this Biden proxy war, which should never have happened. Putin should never have been pushed to do what he did and that it's awful what he did. But this really needs a very quick close because Zelensky is losing support. Zelensky is running through money. The people of the Ukraine are sick and tired of it. You would be, wouldn't you? And then, of course, we're still housing Ukrainian refugees here through that visa system that's now been actually issued to some other asylum seekers from different parts of the world. And the Ukraine visa system is being used as the gold standard, if you want, for visas and naturalisation to be given in this country. So it's a complete round circle. Plus, Starmer still sending their money. We knew that our defence budget wasn't big enough. He was trying to increase it from 2.5 to 2.8. We've now been told today we've got this 51 billion black hole. What's going on, Petrie? What is going on? And China now are sending out to Taiwan because
they will attack Taiwan while we're all looking the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
And they know that they can't rely on Trump's support for Taiwan. Yeah.
Because Trump's now said, well, and Trump's other key that he thought, or his other card that he wanted to play to Putin was to raise tariffs in both India and China. And of course, they're big trading partners with Russia.
Yeah. Well, and that will be the point, won't it? Because they buy a lot of oil from Russia. So if they start slapping on 50%, I think he's talking about for India. I don't know what it is for China, but look, but that won't bother Putin because Putin doesn't care about the money, right? He doesn't care about the population of Russia. He just wants the power, exactly. Yeah. And this war has been an embarrassment to him because he thought he was going to win it in a matter of minutes. So this has been an embarrassment. The only way he can escape this without egg on his face is to have those bits of land that he's claiming that he's going to take no matter what. Yeah. So it's really to save face.
Of course
it's embarrassing for these men. It's just ego. It's just to save face.
It's ego and, it's pride comes before the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Zelensky can't go to his people and say, look, we fought this fight to give away, nearly 20%
Well, you know
of our
my
land.
view on Zelensky anyway, so so let's not spoil the evening by
Let's not argue about that. Okay.
No.
Wealthier areas face big rises in council tax. Households in swathes of the country are paying hundreds of pounds more in council tax under Angela Rayner's plan to send more money to deprived areas. Central London and some home counties' councils could suffer big budget cuts, leading to predictions that services ranging from bin collections to elderly care will be hit unless councils' taxes rise. They're also talking about changing council tax to land value tax, which will obviously hit London the most because land in London is worth more than it is anywhere else in the country.
Only because of supply and demand. That's the only reason why. Again, down to a capitalist economic cycle. I've got huge issues with this. It's just not fair. It's the actual. Ironically, the most fair system was the poll tax.
The poll tax
that Thatcher brought in. She brought it in. I don't know who advised her to do it the way she did because she used Scotland as a guinea pig. But actually, when you strip it back, it's actually the fairest way of taxing people, regardless of how much your house is worth. If it's based on what services are being used, right, which is what council tax is, then are you trying to tell me that a family of 4, a family of 10, against vis-a-vis someone living alone are using the same amount of service? No, they're not. Of course they're not. And that was what it was all about. Those with 4 bedrooms paid more against a person who had 1 bedroom would pay less. And the size of the house. That's what poll tax was on, not on the value of the house. It's about the amount of services used. And I think that's actually, with hindsight, a fairer system.
But you've got people who live in wealthy areas with no money.
I know.
That can't afford to pay more in their account. I mean, it's just dumb-headed.
Because they bought, I'll give you, for instance, in Ealing, which is close to where I am, a house in 1971, a huge, big well, a semi-detached house, cost, it was £9,500, I think they paid. My parents paid for a 4-bed house outside Glasgow the same money at the same time. Go figure what's in the
Gone up
millions
in value, yeah.
and what's not even worth £500,000.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that, again, this is this disparity of wealth, because very rich people don't care about this, but it's the rest of us that are working hard and earning enough that are going to end up with nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And I'm sorry, I don't trust these local authorities either with their money.
No, I don't.
I really don't. A lot of it, they say, and then they give you the breakdown of what your money's spent on. Bins, do you know that a lot of bin companies are actually outsourced now to people like First Mile, Biffa, who are rubbish, and lots of others? It's very, very, very
it's all privatised.
Seldom will you see a local authority refuse collector.
Yeah.
And then you've got to put everything into the bins. You've got to you're basically doing their job for them. And where does it all end up in any event?
Landfill.
Landfill.
I know.
I'm so sick of it.
I'm so sick of it as well. And they are literally taking us for mugs.
And yet they've got mayors. They can wear their chains. They can go and open a Christmas fete or something like that. Get out of the way. Go and stand in a cycle lane and get knocked over. This is what you've done. And Sadiq Khan, whilst you're at it, if you're listening, you can jog on as well.
I'm with you, 100%. Let's take a break. I'll come back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and with me is the fabulous Claire Muldoon. And we're going through Thursday's papers. The Eye, this is a story, I mean, you could not make this up.
This is an awful story.
Awful. This is the Labour's Minister for Homelessness.
Yeah.
Chucks her tenants out of her properties and then puts the rent up by £700 and tries to re-let them.
Yeah. Under the Renters Reform Act.
The hypocrisy. It's like...
Renters Reform Act, right, brought in. This is actually illegal, right? You can't do that. You cannot issue someone as a landlord a Section 21 notice for them to leave because you've put the rent up and they can't afford it.
She's previously.
So what it's called is a no-fault eviction.
Yeah.
Right, and this is what was supposed to have been banished.
Yeah.
But this is the way around it. Because they'll say, yeah, we just want you out because we want to sell the house.
Yeah.
Right? She put the house on them, or the flat, I don't even know what it is, but given the fact she wanted £4,000 a month for it, I'm assuming it'd be a house in East London. So she issued a Section 21 to her tenants. They left. She said she was selling the property. So put this property up for sale. You've got 6 months to have it on sale with an agent. I said, oh no, I don't want to sell it anymore. There's no takers. So I'm going to put the rent up anyway, £700. That's abhorrent. Absolutely
really is.
Abhorrent.
And the hypocrisy.
She's probably claiming expenses on that too.
I've no idea. But this woman, Roshana Ali, has previously spoken out about private renters being exploited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to rent somewhere at £4,000 a month, you need to earn about £150,000.
I mean, that's a hell of a lot of money.
An awful lot of money. And if you've got that amount of money, why are you renting?
Exactly. But also, it's just the hypocrisy of these people. You know, the laws, the rules, morals of other people. But
that
not
is a
for
sacking
them.
offence in my view. It's an absolute sacking offence, and she should hang her head in shame.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that at all. Should the BBC hang its head in shame for airing MasterChef with John Turode and the other one, Greg Wallace?
Greg Wallace. No, they shouldn't, because I'll tell you, it's the amateur MasterChef. People who are on that show are relying. It's their showroom. It's their front store window. They are showing their wares, right? This is an opportunity. They won't get paid because it's a BBC show to, show their worth, show their talents. It's their showcase. And because of those two pillocks, they're not being able to, why should they not, or pickles, sorry, because of those two pickles, why shouldn't they, why should their time in the lights, the
they've already filmed it, haven't they? But apparently they're showing it. They've edited it to take out all the jokes, which I don't remember.
All the bands. Apparently it's a really, really hard watch now.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I absolutely.
I'd watch it. I'd watch it.
I'd watch it just to see that. Well, it's only going to be about 10 minutes long, isn't it? So it'll be fine.
The new season will have air fryers instead of cooking from scratch.
Exactly. But the BBC is really in an absolute
pickle.
And as far as I'm concerned, Tim Davies got away with a lot. It's time for him to hang up his boots.
Did you see the other news bite today that a female in the top 50 earners was showing lewd pictures to a junior member of staff?
Yeah. That's on the front page as well.
If that was a bloke, they'd be named and shamed.
Of course they would. It's an absolute joke.
Two-tier sexism.
Yeah. The Daily Telegraph for Thursday, they're saying Wallace is back, but banter is off the menu. That'll be dry, won't it?
Starmer's pledge on tax thrown into chaos as well.
Yeah.
The Daily Telegraph.
He's refused to rule out rises in VAT, income tax or national insurance. Well, he can't rule it out because, like I said, they're not going to tax the wealthy. They're not going to tax corporations. So something's got to fill that black hole.
But they've taxed private schools. Universities are collapsing financially.
Well, they've put
University of Dundee is.
They've put the prices up as well.
But who's going to pay that? I mean, come on, the likelihood of don't even get me started on student loans. 50 billion black hole again, down to their own rebuttal and their own refusal to, wake up and smell the coffee. And we've got the business minister, Jonathan Reynolds, charging how much for a breakfast with him?
What's it, £9 grand or something? £9.5 grand or something?
It goes up and up and up.
To have breakfast with him. I mean,
what is he going to do? What's he going to do?
We should charge. Do you reckon we'd get away with charging £9 grand for people to join us for a breakfast? Probably not breakfast.
I was going to say, but the timing of your show, it would be prime time for 10 grand at least for a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Outside News UK, outside the 17th floor. That's us. I'd even make it in for that.
Yeah, and we'd even supply the wine, right?
We would.
Yeah, for
and
that
the carrier
sort of money.
bags.
Yeah. And we could
those
find
benches?
there's a good bench there.
Well, just tell Jeanette at security, look, Jeanette, this is happening, right? We're telling you, we're being upfront about it.
She'd want to come and have a drink with us anyway. So.
Oh, God, she'd be so welcome.
She would.
We love Jeanette.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a good one. Good sort. Gary your friend Gary?
I was going to ask you about Gary. I've not heard from him for ages. How's he doing?
He's good. He says, if you and Claire are going to get launched into space from Scotland, I'll happily use a wee packed lunch of sandwiches, cream and jam scones or scones, and a bottle of Lambrini full Muldoon. There you go.
Oh, Gary, I thought we were over this. It's not Lambrini, Gary. It should be, actually, Gary, to be honest with you, I have missed you, but should it not be an apple cream puff or an apple cream turnover? Where are you getting your scones from?
A deep fried Mars bar.
No, it wouldn't translate well up there with the gravity and all that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, the scone wouldn't work either because all the cream would fly off. It would be rubbish.
I don't know where he got those scones from.
Right. So yeah, I think that
the Daily Telegraph also had Trump to hold talks with Putin about the Witkov thing. Yeah. As he landed in Moscow this morning. I mean, we really have to keep abreast of that. I mean, because Trump does send good people abroad. He really does. And they'll come back with lots of intel, hopefully, and let's hope there will be an end to the Ukrainian war, and let's draw a line under Gaza as well, please.
Please.
Because that's really getting
horrific. Awful.
Well, it always was.
The Guardian... it always was, yeah. Guardian has gone with horrific pictures of Palestinians fleeing after an attack by the Israeli military, this declares, in a neighbourhood of Gaza City, where behind them there is nothing left. There is barely a single building left. And dozens of international scholars and writers have signed a letter to The Guardian calling on the government to reverse its ban on Palestine
action.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole, it's also happening in the Sudan at the moment.
Yeah.
300, it's either 300,000 or 30,000. Lots of children facing starvation as well, and they're being displaced. It's just... It's almost an advert for colonialism, actually, isn't it?
I mean, it's definitely an advert for the aliens to come down and wipe out the human species, I tell you.
Talking of adverts, remember, the big hoo-ha about the American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney?
Yes.
Right. Well, on the front page of The Guardian as well, the study finds genes that could raise the risk of ME. If you read it another way, a Gen Z way, it would be study finds genes that could raise risk of me,
and me. Yeah, that Sydney Sweeney stuff is weird, right?
Yes, I thought the advert was great. I thought the advert was, I loved the old Bartle Bogle and Hegarty ads of the Nick Cayman and the Levi ads, and the Halifax Easy Like Sunday Morning with that open brick facade on that loft apartment in London.
Yeah.
And that made me want to move to London. I thought, gosh, this is lovely, this is cool. And it was all the time about, what's that programme on Channel 5, the travel programme, and then The Word, and all that explosion.
It was all happening.
Of 80s and 90s. And Polly Vernon, I don't know if you read her piece yesterday, her op-ed, in the Times. And it said that back in the 80s, if you went for lunch, you went out for lunch, right? And it was great.
You didn't get home until breakfast the next day. That was lunch.
But we were happy, Petrie.
We were happy.
We were happy. There was no anxiety, social anxiety. There was no, sick days, because you went in with your hangover. You went into the toilets, you heaved, you came back out, you still went to work, and you still did your job. We had laughs,
We did.
The banter was off the charts. We were safe. We were happy. We were invincible.
We were, and those days. I mean, I just remember those lunches just going on and on and on and on and on. I mean, literally.
And you could expense them.
And yeah, you could. And also, you go to the cash machine, and you get a tenner out.
Yeah.
And that would last you.
I don't know where you lunched. You must have been with Gary and his scones or his deep fried Mars bars.
I was
in the Groucho and Cafe Bohème in Soho, living my life. That was just so wonderful. And look at Gen Z's now. How do you want your coffee?
Yeah.
Oat milk, Right.
Yeah,
Here
and
you are.
going to bed
I can't
by 8
look
o'clock.
at you in the eyes. Awful.
They don't know what they missed. I mean, and Sunday lunches with newspapers, and that they would go on until Monday morning as well. Amazing. Loved them. They were my happy times.
Everyone's happy time. Everyone's happy time. I didn't know one person in antidepressants.
No.
Suicide rates weren't high. You know, we made friends for life. We had no social media. Nothing was recorded either, which was brilliant.
Brilliant, thank God.
Really?
Really?
Honestly,
if I had to live my youth through this prism now, I'd be cancelled. Right, we've got to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is, and it is Petrie here, and with me is Claire Muldoon. The Daily Mail, this is a story you referred to a little bit earlier. HMRC staff hold class on guilt of being British.
I mean, His Majesty's Royal, I don't know what C stands for. By nature of the
I know
name.
what I think the C stands for.
Yeah.
That's for...
But I wish I could say
His Majesty's Revenue.
I'm not booked in again until the 1st of September.
His Majesty's Revenue and Customs.
Of course it is. Yeah, I mean that's British. As British as you could possibly get. Why should there be guilt?
I have literally no words for this, and I can say.
Who makes up these courses?
I don't know. Somebody's making money.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
I mean,
I just wish they would do their job. I wish they would answer the phone, not keep you hanging on. I don't want to hear if they've got an Amazon delivery or their dog walker's back with the dog whilst they're taking my phone call. I actually want them to do a level of high due diligence for a job that they're being paid to do that I'm not doing because I'm rubbish with tax, as we've already established. I'm not an economist.
No, I can't do
that's why they're there. I give them the figures. They do whatever they want, process them, churn it out, tell me what I owe, give me a payment plan, let me pay it up or whatever. But, stop with the doors going. Stop so that, I'm sorry, and stop muting me when I'm on a call because I can hear you talking. It's just ridiculous.
I agree. I mean, this is just pathetic, to be honest with you. What about this story? Why I'm injecting my 13-year-old daughter with fat jabs.
Oh, I missed that one. I didn't see that.
It's right at the top, just under the title. It's in the female section. Why I'm injecting my 13-year-old daughter with fat jabs. I mean, if they're safe for children and that child needs to lose weight for health reasons.
I would rather the mother educate the child. I mean, I don't think any child aged 13 has got a physical disability to make them obese. The child should only
unless
be...
they do,
but I don't think that would be in the female section of the Daily Mail if she had.
It's true.
Clearly in the section of the Daily Mail, because she doesn't have a medical condition and the mother has taken it upon herself to buy these drugs. It'll probably be bought under her name as well, because she can't get the prescription for a child. So the fact she's even allowing this report to come out, you know what? It's not on. It really isn't on. This child is 13. She is a child.
And it'll be the mother, and the mother's the one that's been feeding this child as well. Yeah. So it's the mother's fault.
Or enabling.
And for enabling that. And I just wish they'd get rid of female. It's such an old-fashioned concept that we can't read the boys' news. We have to have girls' news.
Oh, right, okay. I thought, is the boys not sport?
Well, I suppose it. Yeah, but we're not allowed to read that. We've got to read female. Rubbish. This is interesting. The front page of the FT is a great story here, actually. Rainer demands explanation for secret sections on Beijing's embassy blueprint. Why have they got secret sections on a blueprint of something they're building in the UK?
Exactly. And I think this all comes about, was it Barry Gardiner that was the MP that was friendly with the Chinese?
Yes, I think it was, yes.
It was, right. And, it was in the papers a few years ago that China was infiltrating. Was it MI5?
Oh, it's everywhere.
The domestic, absolutely everywhere. So for her to come out and say, we want the blueprint for this, good on her. Good on her. We do need it.
What did they think was going on? I'm just trying to get into the minds of the Chinese.
Oh, don't do that. It's a very, very dangerous place to go there, I'm sure.
What did they think would happen with a blueprint and a whole area that's sort of blacked out? Did they just think, oh, that's fine, we don't need to know what that is?
File. It's their Epstein file.
That's where the Epstein list is.
Yeah, that's where it is. It's all
where
redacted.
It is.
That huge black hole. We've got fiscal black holes. They've got black holes of another nature.
I just wonder what they thought was. They won't notice that. They won't notice that bit that we haven't filled in.
But don't you just think that's an overview though of Chinese culture in China? The way they treat authority, and the way authority treats the bourgeoisie and the proletariat.
Yeah. I mean, it's so. I mean, for me, I just don't get what goes on in somebody's. No, I won't notice that.
They're all robots, anyway.
The Metro. I'm a doctor. Get me out of here.
Get me out of here. 1 in 5. 1 in 5. Is that really a helpful front page, given the fact they've just come out of a 5-day strike?
Not really.
A 5-day strike, incidentally, which when they came off one of the strike shifts, they went back on to do another shift, which was legal, because they were being paid as an agency worker. Go figure. Go figure.
Yeah.
I am incandescent with rage about all of this. I really am. They took a Hippocratic oath to save lives, right? That's all you've got to do.
Yeah, and doctors that haven't done a certain number of years in the NHS shouldn't be allowed to go off and tout their wares. We paid hundreds of thousands of pounds to get them trained.
Yep. And it's not just junior doctors, resident doctors as they're now called, that can't afford the rent. The Gen Z, or the person who maybe has a young family who's on a 0-hour contract, they can't afford to pay the rent either.
Yeah.
You trying to tell me that one is more deserving of the other, of a human right to live and have shelter?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
To
Not in my watch.
To get treated in a hospital, yeah.
Not in my watch.
No, it's just, I don't know. I mean, the BMA seems to be being incredibly greedy over
Oh, they're
all
awful.
of this.
They're awful.
Yeah, they're really militant, aren't they?
And I'll tell you, the GMC are no friends of doctors either.
No. The GMC is balloting for strike as well, isn't it?
Oh, God knows.
Yeah, to take nurses and porters and people like that out, or hospital workers out on strike.
Which are mostly subcontracted anyway, or a lot of them, to private firms.
Certainly the cleaning companies are.
The cleaning companies are.
Which is why hospitals aren't as clean as they used to be.
And they don't smell like hospitals. MRSA on the increase. Lots of other bugs on the increase. Because we don't have matrons
again,
either.
Let's take that back to greed. Let's take that back to the rich getting richer. These companies,
Profit before people.
Profit before people. The Mirror campaign.
They've had a campaign, haven't they?
Yeah. Cosmetic cowboys crackdown. Dodgy cosmetic clinics that risk patients' lives face a clampdown. Oh, that's terrifying, isn't it? What do they mean by that?
Well, they mean that a lot of beauticians think that they can inject botulism into people's faces and get away with it.
There's been all those cases of people going into hospital, isn't there, with botulism.
Lip fillers.
Yeah. I can't be doing with all that.
Oh, it just looks awful.
I can't. I don't understand that whole thing. I just don't.
Not attractive.
What was that fish pout thing?
Trout pout.
Ever since Leslie Ash did it.
Yes.
And that was a long time ago, wasn't it? And she went too far, and it ruined her. It completely destroyed. Beautiful girl, completely destroyed her. This cosmetic market is like the Wild West.
Oh, it is, and especially if you fly over to Turkey. I mean, it's not, but this isn't gender specific either.
No,
it's not. It's across the board here. It's just, I mean, the swimming pools as well. There's tales and reports of bandages and blood in swimming pools.
Well, look, we're just really lucky that we're naturally beautiful.
Yeah. Remember Tabitha the witch? Every time that cartoon or the program used to, and then the ding.
Well, look, when we're in space, we will be the most beautiful women there. So. That's great. On the moon, anyway, because there won't be anybody else. Claire Muldoon, thank you. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, coming up after the break, it is just you and me, and there is now, we are reliably informed, a £51 billion black hole in the British economy. Rachel Reeves will be sitting down with the back of an envelope and working out how she's going to fill that. It seems like a wealth tax is off the table, so who's going to pay it? How do we get that money and stuff it into the black hole without us having to pay more tax? Or do you think that it's just inevitable? I think it's inevitable. We are going to see tax increases. It's as simple as that. But I would love to hear from you. If you could come up with a plan to save enough money or put money in that hole, what would it be? Give me a call.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. It is Petrie here with you, and it is now your hour. It is your hour, just all you. So it's phone in, and it's the full hour of just you and me. And what I want to talk to you about is that you will have seen, like me, rather depressingly across all of the papers, that the Chancellor has been warned that tax rises are needed to fill a £51 billion black hole. Now that 51 billion is made up of money that is needed, that's 41 billion plus a £10 billion slush fund. So how are you going to fill it? How do we fill it? Because the obvious and easy answer for the Chancellor is to tax us, to just go, look, Sozza, I made a mistake about not taxing working people. We've got to do it now. The world has changed. This is what we're going to hear. The world has changed. We've got to be on a war footing. Our defence budget's got to go up. We weren't able to cut back on welfare. That was supposed to save, mind you, that was only supposed to save about 5 billion, wasn't it? So I don't know where this 41 billion has suddenly come from. What the heck have they spent that money on, or planning to spend that money on, that we need that much? I mean, that is a lot. I'm going to remind you again of how the difference between £1 million and £1 billion, because we hear these numbers trotted out all the time. Oh, $1 billion. And you go, oh, it's only $1 billion. What's $1 billion? Billion. I mean, it's $1 million, there's $1 billion. What? It's not a lot. Let me remind you about what that is. If you were to put aside £1 every second of every day, right? £1 every time a second goes, that's £1, £1, day and night, 24/7, 365 days a year, no sleeping. Every second, £1. It would take 11 days to reach £1 million. It would take 30 years to get to $1 billion. So that's the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. We haven't even worked out what the difference is between $1 billion and $1 trillion is. That'd be, I don't know, that'd be 30,000 years. There you go. A pound every second would take you 30,000 years to get to $1 trillion. 30 years to get to $1 billion, and 11 days to get to $1 million. So when we hear the difference between there's millionaires, there's billionaires, that's the sort of measure we're talking about. We have 171 billionaires in this country at the moment. Well, that was of 2023, up from 15 in 1990. We have 3 million millionaires in this country. And they've said, if you try and tax us more, we're off, we're going. So we can't take money off them. What about corporations? I'd love those corporations, because the bigger they are, the more that they negotiate with HMRC. And they go to the HMRC with all their lawyers and all their accountants, and they say, right, we know we owe you £1 billion in tax, but how about we give you 700 million? Ta-da! And we'll give you a cheque right now for that. You don't have to, there's no, that's it. And the HMRC go, yeah, well, actually, we're desperate for the money, so we'll take that and we'll let you off the rest. So that's how they do it. We can't do that because it's PAYE, right? We can't do that. We can't negotiate with the taxman. And you've got these massive companies for whom profit is everything. You've got the water companies. Let's just look at them, for example, right? They were borrowing money to give to shareholders It should be illegal. There was no profit in that. And they failed. And they are bankrupt. And they now, what happens? They come to us to pay for the repairs that they never paid for because it was just a roulette machine. They were just printing money, just giving it away. And now they've got debts. And we're having to pay to fill those debts. This is the corruption that goes on with the very, very rich, with the very, very big companies. You've also got supermarket chains who are underpaying their staff so that they can profit and give that profit to shareholders and investors. They underpay their staff, and then the staff have to go to the taxpayer to top up their wages in the form of tax credits. So we are supplementing the profit that these companies are making. We are supplementing. They're rich enough to pay people properly. They just don't want to. They just refuse to. Because they need the profits in order to give to their shareholders. And this is going on everywhere in the world, actually, in the Western world. The wealth disparity now is at the biggest it's ever been. It is terrifying, actually. The 1% in this country hold more wealth than 70% of us. The 1% hold all that money, and the gap gets bigger year upon year upon year. And then we have useless governments. The Tories were useless. Labour's useless. They seem to have a real talent at spending money and achieving nothing with it. Coming up with these brilliant ideas to make people like you and me just pay more and more and more and more. And every pound that we earn now, the share of that we actually get to enjoy is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And at the same time, the rich get richer and richer and richer. This trickle-down economics that they thought was going to work in America has failed so catastrophically that the wealth gap there has increased by thousands of %. It doesn't work. But capitalism, on the other hand, is the only thing. Well, communism doesn't work. We know that. Look at Russia. Look at China. Well, it's not really communist, is it, China? I mean, they will say they're communist, but they're sort of capitalist communist. Capuist. I don't know how you'd put those two words together. Because they run a capitalist system within a communist system. But it doesn't work either. Look at Russia. All the rich there, the oligarchs in Russia, who literally stole money from the Russian people. Literally just stole it, just took it away. So that doesn't work either. So I think capitalism is probably the best of the worst, or the least worst of the systems that are available to us. But it's not fair. It doesn't work. It is increasingly becoming more and more and more unfair. When capitalism was first happening, you know, let's talk about the Industrial Revolution. The disparity between rich and poor was never as big as it is now. It was never as wide as it is now. And you've got in France the revolution. Every single revolution, the precursor to it is the gap between the rich and the poor becomes so wide that it can no longer be sustained. That's what happened in France. The revolution there. The rich were too rich. They had every single pound in their pockets, or francs. And the poor couldn't eat. Hence the the line, let them eat cake, but it wasn't that. It was, why don't they eat cake? But what? How do we make this work? 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. You can text as well, 87222, put the word talk and then your message to that number. You can also send a WhatsApp if you'd like to that phone number, 0344 499 1000. So, how would you fill a £51 billion black hole? Now that I've explained the gap between a million and a billion, I'd be happy with a million, to be honest, but that it is so huge, that is an enormous amount of money, breathtaking amount of money. And we just hear these numbers bandied around, so we don't appreciate the actual amount of money that is. We've kind of become inured to it, haven't we? Oh, it's just a billion. Molly is in Derbyshire. Hello, Molly.
Oh, hi, Petrie. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you very much.
Good.
I think, I can save you £500 million a year. I'm a nurse, talked with my colleagues often about this. At the moment, we're told the only way to fix the economy is to raise taxes, cut services. Basically, we're filling a bath up without the plug-in.
Yeah.
What about tackling waste? This is the thing. The NHS, we've worked out, probably spends about £500 million a year prescribing items like paracetamol, eczema creams, indigestion tablets to those who are on free prescriptions. The elderly, those on benefits, which I don't deny them, they're free prescriptions, but things you can buy for pennies over the counter. Paracetamol costs 35 pence, yet when they get it on a prescription, that's costing the taxpayer £12 a time. Once you've had the GP time, the pharmacy fees. Let's be honest, millions of people get free prescriptions, pensioners, people on benefits, like I said. Of course, they should be supported, but not with pointless prescriptions. My solution to this would be a 50 pence charge per item. It's a tiny amount, so it's affordable, but it would deter waste. Because I think it's a bit like the psychology of when they introduced a 50 pence charge for a plastic bag. Suddenly, everyone is carrying their shopping out of Sainsbury's in their arms. Yeah, it's a small change with its big savings. And I just think they need to add, like I said, 50 pence charge, and suddenly people would stop getting paracetamol on their free prescriptions. That's £12. We paid, the taxpayer paid £12 for someone to get a 35 pence item.
I mean, that is brilliant, and that is outrageous, and I completely agree with you. And I was talking to a GP friend of mine about that not long ago, actually, and saying, why are you prescribing, paracetamol, aspirin, or Calpol? And he just said, look, the thing is that we get these people come in and say, well, I can't afford Calpol. So if you don't give it to me on prescription, or I can't afford paracetamol, so then, and so they just do it. But you're right. I mean, that is £500 million saved right there. Anything across. I mean, my pharmacist, I'll say to the pharmacist, is there any of that stuff I can buy across the counter that's cheaper? And they'll go, yeah, absolutely. You get this, and this, and this. And that's the way I do it.
Honestly, so I'll look in patients' records day in, day out. You go through their medical history, their medication, and how many I will see that have got paracetamol, Voltarol on repeat prescription.
That's so wrong.
And I bet half of them have got a stockpile of this medication because it's free. They just keep going back and collecting it. And it will be, sometimes when I used to work in the community, you used to get the medication and they would have a stockpile of all this medication they don't even use. The inhalers, that's another one. But they just keep going back and getting it because it's free. And God knows what's happening, like in Scotland, where it's free, and that's everybody.
Yeah, that's everybody. I mean, the thing is with prescriptions as well. I remember doing a phone-in years and years ago at another radio station, and discovering that there's a very small percentage of people who actually pay for their prescriptions. So the majority of people in this country, if they're pregnant, if they're young, if they're on benefits, if they're old, all of those things, getting free prescriptions. So it's the majority of people getting free prescriptions. So you're looking here at what you're talking about being replicated millions of times across the country.
And a packet of paracetamol, 35 pence in the supermarket. Well, the taxpayer is actually paying
12
quid. 12 quid for that every single time. It's crazy. And that's why I think they need to put like a 50 pence surcharge. And suddenly, I bet you they won't be getting the paracetamol on prescription anymore, because they'll think, oh, I'm not paying 50p when I can get it for 35p.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally pennies, right? I mean, it costs nothing. And the same with if you get the ibuprofen that isn't branded, it costs nothing.
That's it. Yeah. And I do think, and do you know, charging 50 pence, come on, it's not that big a deal. No. But it is like the supermarkets charging for the plastic bags. I find myself doing it. I refuse to pay 50 pence for a plastic bag, so I literally carry on the shopping out in my arms.
I know, we are ridiculous. I will go with a small bag and end up with it all spilling out the top rather than buy one.
Rather than buy one. And so, seriously, and that would be $500 million right there.
That's amazing. I'm going to make you Chancellor of the Exchequer.
I think I should.
I think you definitely should. So look, we're down now to 50.5 billion, but we're on the way. You've started us off well, Molly.
There we go.
We should not be giving prescriptions for things like paracetamol or anything cheap that you can buy across the counter. It should just be reserved for, medications that you can't get across the counter.
People need, so I get it, with those are long-term conditions, so your diabetics, rheumatoid inflammatory arthritis, they have to have like methotrexate, these DMARDs. They're on, but they have to pay for those actually. But you can get those prepayment ones.
Yeah, you can get the certificates, can't you, and get them. It's a decent, because I have to have a lot of drugs, and that's a decent way of doing it. I think it's about £115 a year. For all of your prescriptions, but if you get more than 2 prescriptions a month, or then it is cheaper. It's much cheaper. Yeah, I like that, Molly. You've kicked us off. Brilliant. Well done.
You're welcome.
Bless your heart. Thank you. That is disgraceful, isn't it? £12 per prescription for a 35p box of paracetamol. Why is that happening? That's ridiculous. That's £500 million saved. What else would you add to the £51 billion black hole? Molly's done well. I'm going to take a break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. How are you? Look, we're talking about how we fill a black hole in our economy, because it appears there isn't the appetite for a wealth tax. There isn't really an appetite to charge companies what they should be paying either. So the rich just get richer, and that's fine. That apparently is fine. That seems to be fine with all of us. None of us mind at all that the number of millionaires and billionaires are just growing like Topsy in this country, while there is poverty and you know, the rest of us are having to pay a greater percentage of our earnings in tax, which looks like we're going to have to pay a bit more. They're talking about a 5% tax increase. They're talking also about freezing the bands where you pay tax. So with inflation and wage inflation, that millions more people will be dragged into paying more tax. It's a really sneaky way of making us pay more tax. So how do we fill this black hole? Can you think of any savings, for example, that we could make? I mean, Molly just came up with absolutely brilliant. I'm buying that. I'm in. That's $500 million gone already. And this is just a phone in. Right, so we've managed to save $500 million that we can chuck in to that black hole. What else do you think we need to do to fill that black hole? Because if there aren't enough $500 million around, we're getting taxed more. We're paying more. There's all these schemes now about making sure that every single one of us ends up with less money in our pocket. So the majority, the vast majority, will yet again be supporting the very tiny but disgustingly wealthy minority. But that seems to be okay. It seems to be okay. We're okay with that. We're okay with that. It's great. If you're, Simon, talking about those prescriptions, if you're pregnant, 18 or under, in full-time education, on benefits, have a serious medical condition, or like me are over 60, all prescriptions are free. The only people that pay for prescriptions are working people. And that's from Simon in Bray. But the percentage, actually, if you look at the percentages, it's woefully small as the amount of people that actually pay for those prescriptions. So, but I like that idea. We should not be paying £12 for a 35 pence box of paracetamol or aspirin. Thank you, Simon. Gary said, I just think that governments past and present have been grossly inadequate over the past 15 years. We've had the Tories' austerity following a global financial crisis, and now we have Labour's 21 billion black hole last year, and 1 year on, we have another 41 billion black hole. And yet Britain is still the 5th richest nation. I think we're 6th now. Can't remember if we slipped one. But anyway, yeah, we're still 5th or 6th richest nation in the world. Terrible PMs and MPs are responsible for widening the gap between rich and poor. That's from Gary in Glasgow. And I agree with that. And they are terrible because they will not make people pay their tax bill that need to pay it in terms of the huge companies. Because it's unpopular with Donald Trump. Or it's, don't like it. So we have to pick up the tab again, just like with the water companies. Let's go to the calls. Stephen is in London. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Petrie. First of all, I'm going to disagree with you on just everything.
That's fine.
But, you know, you and Peter Cardwell are my favourite presenters because you actually do listen to callers that disagree with you. You don't just shout them down or cut them off. So you and Peter are my favourite as people.
Thank you.
But other people, I agree more with their opinions, but I don't think they're as nice people because they shout their callers down if they disagree. So Just wanted to let you know. So regarding inequality, you said the inequality is making the rich richer, the poor poorer. Well, I tell you, a society where there's no inequality is a hunter-gatherer society out in the African savannah. No one has anything. Everyone's equal. No one has nothing. Everyone has nothing. That's equality for you. Now, we want inequality because that shows that some people are creating businesses that are generating wealth. And that is how people get employed and how other people get money. So inequality is a sign that an economy is doing well.
Inequality, I completely agree with you. But when it is a vast inequality, when it is the 1% holding more than 70% of the population's wealth, that feels a little imbalanced.
Well, it's an imbalance, but you want vast inequality. That shows that people are making massive improvements in the economy because they're selling things or providing services which everyone in the world needs. Amazon is a worldwide phenomenon because people voluntarily use Amazon. Microsoft is a massive company, and Bill Gates is a multi-billionaire because he had a product which transformed the world. That's how you become
I agree, but then you've got things like water companies.
Water companies
who they're not helping anyone, and they've made billions in profits or loans that they've given to people. It's not true. Just because it is true of some companies, and I completely agree with you, but it is not true of all of them. Banks.
But the companies which have made it through the free market system, such as Amazon and Microsoft,
I agree with that.
That inequality is good. But companies which have made it through government interventions, governments giving companies monopolies, such as the water companies, or back in the day we had the East India Company, which the government gave a monopoly with all trade with the East, and it was a private company, the East India Company, but because the government got involved and stopped the free market and gave the East India Company a monopoly with all trade with the East, it became incredibly rich and wealthy, and even had its own army, and that is wrong.
But you've also got companies that don't, service companies, for example, that don't actually produce anything. So you've got the banks. The profits that the banks are making is way out of step with what they actually do for the country. The insurance companies, insurance conglomerates, who we know they offer you an umbrella when the sun's shining and they take it away when it starts to rain. So you've got other companies. I accept what you're saying. Those innovators, those people who build and design and create, they deserve to make their money. They employ people. As long as they employ them on a proper wage, I'm happy with that. As long as they're not being subsidised by the taxpayer, I'm happy with that. But you've got supermarkets whose staff wages are being subsidised by the British taxpayer in order that they can keep their profits to give to their shareholders. That is an imbalance which I think is not right.
Yes, again, all the things you're talking about, the banks, insurance companies and the supermarkets getting subsidies, that's when it's not the free market. That's when the government gets involved. That's why things are bad. If you leave it to the free market, companies would have to survive on their own, and they couldn't charge too low a wage because they wouldn't get anyone to work for them. People would work for the other company which charged a higher wage. So if you left it for the free market, you get companies getting the revenue that they deserve.
But then, okay, I accept that is a possibility. But what about, the things like the banks? The profits that these banks are making is absolutely billions and billions of pounds every 3 months in profits.
I agree. That's
from us.
The government's involved in backing the banks. If the banks go bankrupt, the bloody government will bail them out.
Well, that's because they're too big to fail. Because if they go bankrupt, they take my money with them and your money with them.
Well, yeah, but what that does, it means that banks don't have to worry about going bankrupt because they know they're going to be bailed out. If you're running a business and if you go bankrupt, all your losses are going to be covered by the government. You're not going to be running your business very efficiently. So they need to stop. They need to let the banks fail.
oh, yeah, but if they do, then we fail. I mean, this is the thing. They get too big. They get too powerful. They get too big. I've got my, life savings, which doesn't amount to a hill of beans, in a bank. So if that bank goes under, I'm just collateral damage.
Yes, but my point is that if the banks didn't know that they would be saved by the government, they would have to run their businesses in a better way, so they didn't go bankrupt, and then so people wouldn't lose their savings.
Yeah, but you say that like it's just incompetence that makes them go bankrupt. It's not incompetence that makes them go bankrupt. It's greed. I mean, you look at that mis-selling scandal that brought down a couple of banks. Hiding, toxic mortgages. It's like it was like going to a greengrocer's and they put all the nice fruit on the top and all the rotten fruit underneath. That's what the banks did. They did it deliberately. And insurance companies behave in the same kind of way. Loan companies behave in the same kind of way. They're toxic, and they enable people. Do you remember those? What was it? Wonga? Was it Wonga?
Yeah, Wonga. Yeah.
People became billionaires owning those companies, and then it just collapsed. But they don't care. They just make the money. It's just greed. They just want more and more money. And they don't care what happens to the people who've borrowed that money. They don't care about whether they can afford to pay it back or not. It was all toxic. So it's not just sort of like, oh, it's market forces. There are people forcing those markets, if you like, as well.
Yes, I agree. But if people knew that if they did go bankrupt, they'd lose all the profit they'd made, and the banks and the government wouldn't bail them out, they'd be more careful about exploiting people.
Would they, though? Because the heads of these banks have already got their 15 yachts. They've already got their 27 houses around the world. They're all right. They've already got their investments in other countries. They don't care. They don't care.
They can be sued with a class action if they've been doing something.
Yeah, which will tie up the courts for 20 years. By which time the old duddery at the top of the bank of wherever it is has died and put all of his money in a trust fund. Rich people don't pay. We know that. Look at all these corporations that go bankrupt, and or the blood scandal at the NHS. We pay that. The post office, we're paying that. The water companies, we're paying that.
The government's involved. Because we're paying it, because the government's involved. We've got a nationalised health service, a nationalised post office. So the government's involved. If it's left to private companies, if private companies knew that they would lose their jobs, they'd lose all their savings. If the owners of the company,
but it was a private company. Hang on, it was a private company that stitched these people up in the post office. But nobody's been fired. You never see corporate firings. We never see those people at the very top of the food chain losing their jobs without a good payoff.
If a private company goes bankrupt, the people lose their jobs.
Yeah, but the people at the top. What I'm saying to you is the people at the very top of those companies, those people, the grubby, millionaires who are earning, profit over profit over profit over share this and shareholdings that, they don't suffer.
Well, they'd have to declare bankruptcy. That's the only way. That's the way you can get rid of their debts.
Not if it's a limited company. No, just goes bust, doesn't it, with its debts? That's what a limited company is.
They'd have to declare again. That's a government intervention. That you have a limited company.
Well, I mean, there are most companies are limited. They're limited by liability, and those if the bigger they are, the harder they fall. They close. Limited company. Sorry, mate. You can't touch my 14 Lamborghinis. They're mine.
Well, as I said, if the government wasn't involved in making legislation where they're limited, then they'd know they'd lose it and have to be more careful. Regarding the wealth tax, if you have a wealth tax on businesses, you tax highly profitable businesses to a very high degree, that means that the owner of the company will have less money to invest in the business, less money to make the business grow, less money to employ more people. So you're suppressing the economy. You're preventing growth.
It's asking them to pay a little bit more when they're already underpaying people. They're already being able to plough, and they don't put the profits back. Mostly, the profits in these companies go to shareholders. They just give the money away.
Yeah, and the shareholders buy the shares and invest in the company. That's how the companies grow.
I know that, but they, exactly, but they don't. You've got other companies that you invest in, and then as soon as they've got to pay a little bit more tax, they up sticks and go away, even though they've benefited from being in the UK. I mean, it just doesn't seem fair. I don't think that all of these businesses are brilliant people with altruistic ideas and fantastic, oh no, we're punishing the very rich. Oh, boo-hoo. It's not a punishment. It's saying, look, we're in a hole. Pay 2% more. If you're extremely wealthy, like silly wealthy, that we can't imagine wealthy. I don't know. I've got to take a break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. We're talking about how on earth do we fill a £51 billion black hole. And again, to give you a measure of what £1 billion is, if you earned £1,300 a day, every day, since the year 1 AD, that's every day through the Middle Ages, War of the Roses, Tudors, Victorian era, 2 world wars, etc., etc. £1,300 per day since the beginning of time, well, not time, but 1 AD, you still would not have saved £1 billion. David's in London. Hello, David.
Hi, Petrie. Thanks a lot. Petrie, what I want to say is that net zero is going to amplify our problems in the years to come. Today, the cost of electric generated from gas is £62 per megawatt hour, but renewables are between £117 and £399 per megawatt hour. I mean, onshore wind is £95 per megawatt hour. And these costs, Petrie, do not include the company's fees, the constraint payments, which are enormous because we've got no way of storing all of this extra energy.
Yeah,
and
I haven't got the battery intelligence yet.
That's right. And it also doesn't include the extra network connectors required to transfer the energy. And don't forget also the £22 billion that is being spent on carbon capture, which is not even a reliable form of, it's not even a reliable technology. Do you see?
Yeah, we could certainly save some money there, but then are we not future-proofing the planet?
Yeah, well, according to Ed Miliband, there's the climate emergency. Keir Starmer needs to get Ed Miliband to sit down and explain, not just in front of Keir Starmer, but in front of scientists who are very, very sceptical. I myself have spent a considerable amount of time looking into this subject, and it's the whole thing, Petrie, is a con. And it's a con. It's just there's no climate emergency. All the charts have been changed.
I see. I do think that I think it would be preposterous to suggest that human beings are not having an effect on the planet. Right, we are stealing all of its resources. We are burning fossil fuel. It would be crazy to say that us being on the planet and doing what we're doing is having no impact on the future of the planet. But what I do think is crazy is to suggest that if we are net zero, that somehow benefits the planet, because it's got to be everybody that does it for it to make any real difference. So I'm not a scientist, but I'm just logical, right? It cannot be that we haven't had some impact on this planet. It can't be.
And he's behaving, Ed Miliband, as if we can fix the climate overnight.
And we certainly can't fix it on our own. And that's what's ridiculous.
And just regarding CO2, CO2 levels have changed throughout history drastically. They've gone up. It used to be 7,000 parts per million. The idea that we're suddenly going to change it with these carbon capture and things
I completely agree. I completely agree. But like I said, I do think that obviously as human beings, I mean, even if you just look at the situation with plastics in the ocean, right, we are destroying this planet. Yeah. So there are things that we could do and should do in order to protect it. But I'm with you. I just don't see that if Britain is suddenly, you know, using windmills and clogs, that we're going to be saving the world, because we're not. So I'm with you on that. Look, as far as we go, we could save 10 billion a year if we scrapped net zero, about 10 billion. So that's 10.5 billion we've saved now. So we're at 40.5 billion we've still got to find. But I think 10 billion, I'm with you on that. We can do that. David, thank you. Great call. Tristan is in Bedford. Hello, Tristan.
Hello, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Not too bad. I think my mind boggles what I keep hearing every single day. Something else this, something else that to do with the government, and it's just, you know, compromising us in so many different ways.
Unbelievable.
And it's just quite unbelievable. I mean, you were just saying about net zero then. I agree with you. I mean, we're going alone, basically, and it just makes absolutely
no sense at all.
And you're saying about the 10 billion, you forgot that there's the auction coming up with the wind farms, and what Ed Miliband keeps doing, he keeps increasing the subsidies, saying, oh yeah, don't worry, 50%, oh yeah, don't worry, 65%, don't worry, we'll pay it for you for the next 20 years. And it's like, are you an idiot? Because we can't, you know, we're just bankrupting ourselves and impoverishing ourselves.
For the benefit of who? For the benefit of who? The rich.
Well,
private companies. Private companies. Who will just get richer while we get poorer.
Yes, pretty much. And that's the thing. There's no other countries following us. It's just us just going alone. It's madness.
It is bonkers. I'd be all in if the whole world was doing it.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, China have already said that they will carry on building coal power stations. They will carry on putting their economy first, and they don't really care about the planet. to be honest with you. I mean, if you've got over 1,100 coal power stations, then that just basically says it all, to be honest with you. That says it all. And obviously we do, I know it's not popular, but obviously we've got foreign aid. I know it's soft power, as I keep hearing, but the thing is we are giving foreign aid to countries that don't really need it.
Yeah, we are, but let me tell you that foreign aid was in 23 to 24, and it's gone down since then. It was 15.3 billion. I think it's around 12 billion now per year. But we already take 3 billion off that to pay for asylum seekers in hotels, right? So that's about, let's say it's 9 billion. Let's round it up to 10 billion, shall we? So we can save another 10 billion if we don't use foreign aid. So we're now down to 30.5 billion that we've got to find to fill that black hole. And that's kind of the point of this, is that we're scrabbling around the back of the sofa.
Yes.
To find the odd billion here, $500 million there, 10 billion there. It's not going to be enough, and that's what I'm trying to.
Chagos Islands, that was 16 billion.
Which was, sorry?
What happened with the Chagos Islands when they paid 16 billion for that, and that basically ruled out. I think it ruled out tax for Mauritius for a year or two. Again, that was another stupid decision by this government.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stupid decision to come straight out of the gate and pay off two massive unions who are still striking.
Absolutely.
So that was a huge mistake. Yeah.
They got no concessions. It's under no conditions.
No conditions at all.
Like, we'll pay you this, and don't worry about it. And the thing is, they're going to come back again.
Yeah, well, they are. They're on strike. Well, they've just finished a strike. They're going to be striking till Christmas, until they get their 29% extra.
And it's madness.
It's depressing because you know why it's depressing? Because while we're scrabbling around the back of the sofa to find these odd billions of pounds, they're going to have to come back to us for the tax, not the super rich. It'll be you and me again.
I know.
Paying more tax.
I mean, the thing is, I feel like now that I'm just earning more money to pay towards the government is what I feel like.
Because we're subsidising, the government is subsidising companies that have got making billions and billions of pounds profits every year, and the government is subsidising their staff's wages. I mean, or not the government, us.
But they keep increasing the state as well. They keep increasing the state, and it's the private companies that make the money. The state don't make any money.
The state makes nothing.
Increasing that.
Yeah, the state makes nothing. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? And it is so depressing, and yet so many people are against any form of wealth tax. They don't see that as being a potential solution to the problem. And if there was just a 2% wealth tax on the 1%, we could raise $31 billion.
Well, I mean, you've got obviously huge companies like Amazon that obviously, they will obviously get some sort of concession when it comes to a wealth tax.
Of course they will. Of course they negotiate with the tax man.
Exactly.
I mean, and everyone goes, no, you can't. No, don't tax them. Oh, don't tax the very, very rich who are just getting richer.
But the thing is like what we're doing obviously at the moment with the migrants. I mean, how much do we just keep paying?
Yeah.
There has to be a limit.
It has to stop, right? We can't afford it.
And then the IMF will have to get involved. Or what happened with Greece is Greece started taking money out of people's bank accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, nothing surprises me with this government, and I think it could get worse.
Yeah, and I really think, but I think we've had enough. They can't keep just taxing us to cover up the cracks that other people are making, right? It's not our fault. We're not doing anything wrong. Good to talk to Tristan. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to take a very quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and we're talking about how on earth we fill a £51 billion black hole in our economy. So far, we've got rid of net zero, foreign aid and silly prescriptions, and we've saved only 20.5 billion. So we've still got 30.5 billion to find. Ian said, if I were a billionaire, I'd have no issue giving up some of my wealth to help everybody else. The issue is I wouldn't trust this incompetent government to spend it for the greater good of fellow Brits. Their record so far is absolutely dire. Have you seen the film The Money Pit? I have, yeah. Reeves and her cohorts are just throwing money into a big hole with no return. So I wouldn't give this lot a penny. I'd wait until we get a competent government. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? But I'd likely be living in Antigua by then. And that's Ian in Hemel Hempstead. Could you just save a little corner for me? I'll come and join you. Guy says, try legalising cannabis to raise billions in tax, save courts money, charging cannabis crimes, policing savings, getting rid of cannabis crimes and cases. I don't have an argument with that. I think that it should be at least decriminalised. I agree with that. The problem is not the insufficient taxes are being raised. The answer is, as anybody knows, is to cut the waste. The UK wastes huge amounts of money, and any housewife worth anything can tell you, first you reduce your outgoings. I'd start with overseas aid to countries we should not be giving money to. I'd cut money to the NHS in particular, unless they carry out root and branch reform. But we all know that will never happen. The UK needs a Doge intervention on a massive scale. The trouble is that the Doge intervention in America did not save nearly as much as they thought it was going to save. In fact, they're having to rehire a lot of the people that they fired. So let's go to Nick, who's in Cardiff. I love Cardiff. Hello, Nick.
Hiya, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Right. What's going to happen with this £51 billion black hole?
Well, to be honest, there was no mention of this £51 million black hole. Billion, yeah, prior to the Labour getting in, and this is what I can understand. And this government haven't got a jar of glue, basically, how to manage the country. Basically, we need somebody more radical to stop all the immigration and everything. I've been a socialist all my life. I've been a member of the NUM, National Union of Mine Workers, Fire Brigades Union, and they're the most militant unions, GMB, Unison. I've been a socialist all my life, and I've just turned to reform. So I've just had enough of basically all what they're doing. They're picking on the poorest, like myself, who was an old age pensioner, 67, regarding the winter fuel allowance.
Yeah, they flip-flopped on that, though, haven't they? They've gone back on that.
They've gone back on that. Well, they've done more U-turns than anybody. They haven't got a clue what they're doing, basically, are they? You know, this.
No, it really does seem not. I mean, I don't know how we went from a £21 billion black hole to a £50 billion black hole in less than a year. Yeah. I mean, that is incompetence at the highest level, isn't it?
And we're supposed to be the 5th or the 6th richest nation in the world.
I know.
Nobody ever explained to me how we can be the 5th or 6th.
According to GDP. Yeah, I know. I don't get it either.
I just can't work it out. We're 5th or 6th richest nation in the world.
And yet we're broke.
And we've got this black hole, and we're broke. We've got no money. We've got no money for anything. You know, they're cutting back on school transport. They're cutting back on, basically anything they can. They're looking at. And another thing is, what about the Data Protection Act when they're looking at our bank accounts, old age pensioners' bank accounts?
Yeah, that should not be allowed.
Definitely. Wasted data protection, I think, that's been ripped up, I think, when they're talking about doing that.
Oh, it's government overreach, isn't it? It is complete and utter overreach. It is disgraceful, and that's what happens, though, I'm afraid, because we don't pay enough attention to privacy, that they just think they can do what they like, and they do.
No, that's the problems we got. That's the problems we're having. And the disabled people the disabled people are distraught. I run a cancer charity, and people are distraught, worrying about the payments being.
But this is the thing, isn't it? That this government, a Labour government,